So today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm just going to play a simple map like town here. I'm going to try to relax a little bit, try to get my mind off of things, and I'm going to vent. That's not really something I wanted to do with this channel, but I need an outlet. So what's been going on is I've been having some issues with my neighbors. So I have some squatters living next to me. We've had many issues with them. I'm not going to give out any names or locations or anything, but we've had many issues with them. And today kind of struck a different chord with how I felt. We've had issues with them just being noisy, obnoxious, whatever. Not too big of a deal. But past a certain part, it's just annoying. And then they start getting a little bit more comfortable and start doing some different things. I think there's always been drugs involved with what they do. Multiple different people have lived at this house next door when I moved in a little over 3 years ago now. And there were people in there, mainly an older woman who, you could tell looked a little rough. She had the leathery skin and no teeth. She talked like the squirrel off of the movie Hoodwinked. And she would be up late all times of the night, grinding metal, welding, and mowing the yard at 11 o'clock at night with a headlamp on during a weeknight. But she never bothered us. She would always have all sorts of different men over, younger than her, and, they'd usually be pretty drugged up as well, on the same path as her, and helping her out on her scrapper projects, just taking big trash off the side of the road in a truck and trailer in the middle of the night and then scrapping it to make their drug money. They barely ever left the house, only at night. They're only active at night. It's really the only time you'd see them. I just kind of let all that slide. I was like, that's weird, but they're not bothering me, so I'm not going to bother them. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think it was the first time meeting her after I moved in. She told me some story about her kids or something, stole a fire truck and drove it across town or something. And then, I don't know, somehow she said her boyfriend took the blame for it. I don't know how you can take the blame for that. So he was in jail for an amount of time. She ended up, I don't know. She would go to she'd have the ambulance over a lot. Eventually, she left in an ambulance and did not come back. So obviously, I thought that was a little odd. Some new people ended up moving in the house for a little while. An older man that was allegedly the boyfriend of her, and he said that he had just gotten out of jail when I met him. Because he had too many strokes in jail. So they let him out. That's what he told me, anyways. So he lives over here for a little while. He's in pretty rough shape, can't walk too well. And he had some younger woman with him. I mean, like, not younger, but younger than him. But, he looked like he might have been late 60s or something. And this woman was probably early 40s, late 40s, somewhere in there. But she looked like the previous woman a little bit. It's kind of hard to distinguish. I was like, dang, you're just a younger, still drugged out version of previous woman. So they move in. She starts doing yard work and making the place look nice, and they ended up having a tree fall on our fence, and it bent the shit out of the fence. But I didn't say anything to them about it. I just let them handle it. That was their tree. That's their responsibility. So she cut the tree up, and I didn't go after them for insurance and repairs and whatnot because they just moved in. I was like, okay, maybe these people are better than the last people. And they were. They were really quiet. They didn't bother us at all. Eventually, though, the ambulances started to come back. And there was a few times where the ambulance would come over in the middle of the night. Oh, all the times of the other times with the previous woman was during the middle of the night as well when the ambulances would come by. And I'm pretty sure, these new people that moved in, they mentioned her and whatnot. And they told me that she died of overworking herself. You know, I don't want to belittle anyone's life or anything or be controversial. I just, you know, I hope that they're in a better place. I really do. But I really do believe that she died of an overdose of some kind and not overworking herself necessarily. But that's just my observation. So the new people, they were decent, but the ambulances came back. Eventually, he didn't come back either. And this was probably, I don't know, maybe not even a year later. So the house goes kind of vacant for a little while. Didn't really bother me. Grass didn't get out of hand or whatever, or too tall. No one over there making noise that I have to worry about doing anything else. Not too long after that, this new cast of characters shows up. They take control of the house, whatever, start living there. I don't know. I'm like, okay, maybe these people will be fine as well. But the way that I first met them was just odd. I came home from work one day and he was just walking along the road, playing around on his phone. And he looked a little rough. Clothes had holes in them. Had sweat stains, just dirty bedhead. And this dude is like almost 7 feet tall and every bit of 280 pounds. And I didn't get out of my car for a moment. I was skeptical because I'd never seen this person before. I don't care what they look like. I've never seen this person before. Why is he just standing out in front of my house looking at his phone? And I had to go check my mail. So I was like, I'll entertain this interaction. I want to see what happens. I walked to the mailbox. I'm prepared. So he talks to me, starts introducing himself and tells me his name is one thing, and I tell him my name, and I was just kind of like, that's kind of weird. His name's a little too close to mine. And he was a little bit of a fast talker, kind of had the same demeanor as the first woman. So I was kind of like, okay, cool. Here we go again. Same shit, same fucking toilet. He gives me his phone number. He wants me to call him, make sure that his phone is working, phone number works, whatever. I do. It works. Put his name in my phone. Just forget about it. Time goes by. They're not annoying. They're quiet. They stay in the house. They don't work, whatever. I still just don't. I don't think they're right. I don't think they belong there. And I'm outside late at night on a weekend night, and I can't remember what we were doing out there. Probably just looking at the stars or being like, oh man, it feels nice outside. And then we both kind of look at each other and we're sniffing. We're like, what is that smell? And it just smells like dog food and burnt rubber. The immediate thought in my mind is, I was like, oh man, they're really smoking drugs right now, aren't they? And I look up on Google, what does this smell correlate to whenever, in the sense of if you smell it and you think somebody's doing drugs, what would it be? I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it on YouTube, so I guess I'm gonna try to censor the word the best I can. I guess what you'd put in a light bulb and start going at it. We just kind of leave that alone. We're just like, I don't know if we really want to call the cops. If we smell it again, then we'll call the cops. So, not trying to get involved or whatever. After I had said, okay, let's go inside, the neighbors turned off their lights to their house like immediately after. Like they knew something, that we knew something was going on that they don't want anybody knowing about. They were doing stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing, and they knew they weren't supposed to be doing. But more time goes by, they did start getting loud. They would be yelling at each other, having domestic issues over there. And I don't know if it ever got physical, but this woman that this dude is married to, she's 5 feet tall, and she's older than him. He's in his late 40s, and she's in her early 60s. Both rough looking. Both look like they've used some hard drugs in the past. So eventually, one day, we're talking, and somehow, they always get our mail in their mailbox, and they come give it to us, but we've never gotten their mail in our mailbox. So I don't know, just a little odd. So we don't know what these people's names really are. They would go away in ambulances too. I'm not sure which one or both of them, But, you know, they would have the cops over there at all sorts of different times during the night after a while and be sent away in ambulances and just be right back at it like the next day or two and be yelling at each other. Then there was one day, I'm just chilling at home after work. I see like 6 cop cars pull up from every different like surrounding city and county. Like we had like a sheriff, a highway patrol, like what the heck was going on over there? There was like 12 cops total, or at least 10. I can't remember the exact number. At least 10 from 6 cop cars. You know, I'm watching. I'm nosy at this point. You've got me interested in what you're doing. Like we've known that there's been some weird people living over here for quite some time now. You know, this might be my chance to figure out like why is this happening and what's going on. So I do go over there. I stay on the street, but you know I wave at the officers. I'm like, hey, you know, I live next door and I'm just a concerned neighbor. Is everything going all right over here? And so the officer, she tells me that they're there for a domestic dispute and they have to come in big numbers for safety reasons. And so I go ahead and I tell her, I'm like, all right, you know, I've never really seen these people before. They're kind of new. Like, I don't even know if they should be here. You know, I don't know the real names. I was given a fake name, and there's, you know, I told the officer that there was one night where, you know, we were outside and we smelled what Google said was the smokable C word. And she just kind of looked at me, kind of smiled, and she's like, okay, well, we can keep that in mind. I said, all right, well, I appreciate you, you know, I appreciate you telling me what was going on. And, you know, I didn't know if I needed to be worried for my own safety or whatever. Eventually, this dude catches me while I'm outside looking my car over. He asked me if I could get his grandson a job. I just told him no. We don't have any positions open. You know, I'm sorry. I wish I could. You know, I'm just trying to be nice, but deep down, I know. I'm like, I don't. If you're related or whatever to the previous people and you act how you act over here in this peaceful neighborhood, I don't want any part of your family working with me or for me. But I don't say that, but that's my thought. So the grandson moves in, and not even 24 hours into this kid living next door, you know, at the time he was almost 18. I think he was a month and a half away from being 18. So not even 24 hours in, 5 o'clock in the morning, my camera catches him trespassing my front yard while it's still dark outside. He goes into my other neighbor's truck, which is my cool neighbor, and that's how I'm probably going to refer to him, as the cool neighbor. He goes into his truck, steals his wallet. Then he links my neighbor's wallet to his own personal Cash App and starts withdrawing like $1,000 and then a couple $100 or whatever. You know, at this point, we don't know what's going on. We don't know it's him. We were sitting down eating dinner. I'm staring out the back window. I just happened to see somebody that's shirtless hopping my fence and going into the neighbor's property behind me. And he starts bending over and shuffling the dirt around, and then he hops both of the fences and goes back inside. And I watched him that time because I was like, who is this person? They go back to the weird neighbor's property, and he goes inside. I go and I talk to my cool neighbor because he was outside in the backyard right after I saw that. He asked me first. He said, hey, have you seen anything weird lately, or, you know, have you seen anything on your camera, any weird cars going by? And I was like, no, I don't think so, but I'll check in a minute to make sure. And he's like, well, I had my wallet stolen last night. You know, I have all my bank stuff in there, credit cards, whatnot. And he's like, I can't do anything without it. So I'm just like, man, I was like, you know what I just saw? I don't know if this is related to what you had go on, but I just saw some shirtless man trespass my yard and go into the neighbor's yard behind us and start like acting like he was burying something back there. And he just kind of looked at me like shocked, like he's like, what the heck? Like, what are you talking about right now? That's off topic from having my wallet stolen. So, you know, we talked a little bit. Then I go out in the front yard because I'm waiting for my weird neighbors to get home now because they weren't home. They just left the kid alone. And I didn't know that that was the kid at this time. So I ask the dude, he's carrying in his groceries. I'm like, hey, so did your grandson move in already? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, he like just moved in like yesterday. And I said, okay, so is that who I saw climb my fence and go bury something in the neighbor's yard behind me? And he said, well, I fucking hope not. I said, okay, well, you might ask him. And I said, oh, while you're here, before you go ask him, our good buddy neighbor next door said he just had his wallet stolen from him last night. And I said, I don't want to assume that your grandson did that, but you might ask him about that too. And he said, I really hope not. I really hope he didn't do that because our neighbor is really cool. He's helped me out so many times doing this and that when I've needed rides and whatnot somewhere. And on top of that, our cool neighbor, he's a veteran. Like screw anybody who is going to steal from a veteran. He goes in, he talks to the kid, and sure enough, he comes back out and he's like, you know what? He did do it. I don't know how he got him to fess up to it, but he said, you know what? He did do it, but I'm going to handle this. So I go over and I talk to the cool neighbor. I let him know all that. And then later during the day, it's starting to get dark out at this time. And I'm over there talking to the cool neighbor. He's got some friends over, so we're all talking about it together. Like they already know everything. And then out of nowhere, the big old dude next door knocks on the front door of my other neighbor's house while we're all there with the kid. And they come in. Big dude says, hey, I think my grandson has something he wants to say to you. He didn't say sorry or anything. He didn't make eye contact with anybody. He was wearing, all black clothes, a hoodie. He wanted to be hidden. He was wearing the same thing that I caught him on camera wearing. So yeah, he doesn't apologize, nothing. He just says, here's your money, sir. That's it. Those are the only words that were ever spoken from that kid's mouth that entire time they were over there. The cool neighbor is just like, okay, well, I mean, thanks. Yeah, like I need money, but that doesn't solve my driver's license, my identification to get on base and all of that. Like he's got to jump through so many other loops to get his shit back. Big old dude asks me, he's like, do you have anything you want to say to my grandson? I just smiled at him and I said, my name is so-and-so and I live right in between here and where you live. And say anything else to him. He just kind of gave me a wide-eyed look and looked right back down at the floor. And, I didn't mean anything by that. I was just kind of letting him know, hey, I'm right in between here, basically insinuating, I caught you. Don't do stupid shit again. I have cameras for this reason. I guess his excuse for why he trespassed multiple properties was because he had never seen cows before. Whenever he was out there shuffling around in the dirt, there weren't any cows out there in the backyard. There were no cows. Next day happens, whatever. I walk the perimeter of my backyard because I'm like, you know what? I want to know if he dropped anything. I feel like he was burying something back here. And sure enough, I did not even have to do anything. It had just been really windy. The dirt had blown away, and my cool neighbor's bank information card had blown onto my side of the fence. So I didn't even have to do anything to get the evidence I needed. I took a picture of it on the ground right where it was, didn't touch it, called the cops, waited for the cops to show up. And this dude was a really nice dude. He was really helpful throughout this whole process. And it's a shame that I haven't gotten to do business with him in that way in a while. It's been other officers, but I'll get into that later because I would much rather be dealing with this first guy that we dealt with. So he comes by, he takes the bank card. That way if they want to fingerprint it. And during this time, during the day, what was happening, I told my cool neighbor what I had found and that the police had it. And he was like, well, that's crazy. Like, did you find any of my other stuff? I said, no. I said, right after he buried all that stuff back there, then the cows came and they started like eating around the dirt. So like he must have coated the billfold and everything in something that made the cows eat the billfold and everything else. So while this is going on, while the money's already been given back, I don't know where he got, I don't know where the big old dude got $1,000 at 9:30 at night in like all sorts of random bills too. But the little shithead was still actively withdrawing money from the card that was connected and still putting it into his own Cash App. And they also tried to say, the big old dude, the guardian of this person, was trying to say that, you know, he didn't act alone. You know, he had friends helping him. But this kid is from out of state, like 2 states away, 15 hours. You know, like what friends is this kid going to have in this state? So I didn't buy it. And also the camera only caught him. If he really did have friends and didn't act alone, I would have seen more than just one person walking across my yard at 5 in the morning. And you know, this isn't important, you know, like race and ethnicity is not important, but I do want to include that these people are white, by the way. You know, cop comes by, talks to him, whatnot, and the cop knows, like, the cop knows the history of the house. He was just like, yeah, I've been over at this property a few times before when the previous lady was here, and there were issues from the neighbors behind with dogs getting out, and which is another thing. They had dogs get out at one point and kill a bunch of chickens, and that was just terrible. So, you know, he's familiar with the activity that happens at that property through the years, and he actually gets to go inside their property. Came back and told me afterwards, he's like, yeah, he just fessed up, you know, said he gave the money back. He's like, man, you know, I think these people are different because the house is really put together in there, you know, like they have everything organized. It looks nice. And, you know, dude, I've been in the house whenever that one woman was here before, and like they didn't have anything hanging on the walls. They didn't even have any furniture. I'm not going to forgive him. I don't care how old he is. I'm not forgiving him for this. You're not going to move in and in half a day start stealing from us. You know, and that means that he was lifting up on our car door handles as well. I'm not putting it past him to think that he tried. And there's no telling what else he was doing. I fill out a report and whatnot, and because he spoke to the neighbors behind and they wanted to charge the kid for trespassing, I wanted to charge him for trespassing. Because at this point, he's already faced multiple counts of grand larceny. But nothing happens. We don't hear anything. And, you know, the kid is still living over there. They never did anything with him. Even after he turned 18, they didn't take him anywhere, didn't process anything. And a few days after we had just last had the police over, you know, this kid's walking around in the front yard with the thickest, longest gold chain I have ever seen. I mean, granted, you know it's fake. But like this dude, this little kid really thinks he's fucking hard. He thinks he's tough shit, wearing a fucking gold chain that he bought with the stolen money from the neighbors. But you know, in a way, that's just like icing on the cake. You know, it's like, okay, so this dude's just breaking laws. He doesn't give a shit. So I guess that's, you know, whatever. You know, they start doing weird activities at night. These people do. Shining whatever crazy amount of lumen floodlight onto our property while they're out there in their shed at 2 in the morning. Light facing into our windows, even though we have curtains and blinds, they were still illuminating the whole house. So I try not to pay it any mind. Now that I know that they've broken the trust between us, you know, I keep all my porch lights on at night with cameras. I'm protecting my property. So they start doing weird stuff. Oh, there was another time, I guess, even before this, the grandson moved in, that they came to my house and tried asking me a question when I wasn't there. And so he goes over to the cool neighbor's house, and I guess he asked him to look after some quail because they were going to be gone for a week. So I guess they were raising quail in their garage. So he agrees. He's helping them out. These people end up being gone for like a month and a half, 2 weeks in or something. My cool neighbor comes over and he asks me, he's like, hey, have you heard anything from them? Like, they said they'd be back in a week. I don't really want to take care of their quail anymore. He said a week. They're running out of food. Like, am I going to have to buy food for them? They didn't leave me any money or any other instructions of what to do with them. So they get back. I don't know whatever happened to the quail. If they perished, that's sad, but I just have no idea what happened to the damn quail. And was it really quail, or was quail like, hey, can you cook some stuff for us while we're gone? You know, I don't know. You know, we start having issues with them being loud in the middle of the night, shining lights. I start calling again. Y'all agreed to patrol this area. You know, we don't feel safe here. I have myself to protect. I have my property to protect, my wife to protect. I have animals to protect. You know, the importance of all those are not in that order. And he said, hey, man, I agree. I'm right there with you. He's like, I carry everywhere. I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's good for you, man. And then he shows me what he carries. It was the biggest Glock I've ever seen. And he had a 30 plus extended magazine on it that he carries around. And I'm just like, dude, what the heck are you afraid of? You're a giant. What are you afraid of? So, that just makes me nervous. He gives off the appearance and the demeanor, that he is on drugs, has done hard drugs, has been in jail, might be a felon still. I don't know. Should he have a gun on him? So, I start including that in everything. We didn't have any issues with the kid anymore. I mean, he's still annoying. He plays rap music really loud over there, which, and it's not like good rap music either. It's like just something that was made in somebody's fucking bathroom. So it's whatever, I'm trying to refrain from calling in everything. I don't want to be that guy. But I've called him in for suspicious activity. I had one officer come over and, I told him, I was like, I really do believe that these people are squatters and they're on drugs and they have guns they shouldn't have. And it's a different officer. You can tell he's got little man syndrome. I'm not a tall dude, average height, but this dude, he's like 5'2". And a cop. Like, what are we doing? So he's got little man syndrome. He's trying to puff his chest out at me and act all cocky and snippiness and attitude to him. And he's like, all right, so, tell me what's going on. I was like, well, we have suspicious activity going on over here. I think they're on drugs and I don't think they should be here in general. And he's just like, well, it's not illegal to be up at 2 a.m. doing work outside at night. It's unusual, but it's not illegal. Whatever, dude. I know it's not illegal, but it's just like, can y'all just start documenting this shit? He didn't want to do his job. He was preoccupied with going to go get some lunch or whatever. He just openly told me he was ready to go get lunch. So, I just let him go. I'm like, you're not going to help me out. You don't want to talk to him about anything. I start noticing that they just keep collecting more and more trash. And they never have ever put their trash out on the curb. So I take note of this pattern. Then I see garbage bags just adding up every day in the trailer that used to be used by the previous woman to go collect scrap. Still full of scrap that they're just piling trash bags onto. We start getting mice and cockroaches on the outside of our house and a million ants. I called code enforcement. The cops have been useless. They don't want to do anything. They'll openly tell you basically they don't want to do anything. And, they didn't do anything about that kid. They just let him go. But I call code enforcement. He's like, okay, well, I'm new, so I'll come check it out. And I'll take some pictures. He's like, is it in public view? I was like, oh yeah, it's front and center in their driveway in the front yard. You cannot miss it. It is piled double the height of the trailer with trash bags, probably 30 or more trash bags. Full, by the way, stretched out and full. So he comes by, checks it out. I don't hear anything. And then I just see big old dude scrambling one day. He takes the trailer and just disappears. What he was doing was driving around all over town and he was just dumping that trash and apartment complexes and public trash bins everywhere. Because if you're not throwing away your trash, you're probably hiding something in the trash. I don't know what it is, if it's drugs or what, but you are hiding something. Never taken it out to the curb. Nah, you're hiding something. He comes back eventually and the trailer is emptier. It is not completely empty. There's still black trash bags everywhere. And then they leave it out in the front yard for a few extra days. And during this time, I see them scrambling to put a no trespassing sign on their mailbox. They think that that's going to prevent the city or police officers from going onto their property to confront them about public sanitation issues. That's a health issue. So that sign just blows away. It just blows away in the wind. It was there one day when I came home. And it was it said no hunting or fishing on my property. And I'm just like, y'all just got whatever sign you could, huh? And the next day they put another one on the mailbox. But this one just says no trespassing, no extra bullshit. I did watch them do it because I heard a lot of banging outside. Whenever I came home and got a look at that sign, they were hammering in the sign with screws. Not nails, screws. So I give them some time. A month and 4 days go by and I call code enforcement again because they moved their trailer to the backyard, but they're still not taking their trash out. And the trailer is even taller than the first time it was full of trash. So I called code enforcement again. I just asked him, hey man, I called about a month ago. I was just kind of checking up on stuff, you know. He's like, oh yeah, man, I'm actually glad you called. I was curious, you know, how things were going over there. Did that fix the issue? And I said, well, no, they moved it to their backyard and it's even taller now. And he was just like, oh, however, even though it's in their backyard, you can still see it from the neighborhood road before you even drive past their house. And he said, okay, well, I'll come take some pictures of that later. And I said, hey, well, I got you on the phone. I wanted to ask you something. They haven't been at home for a few days. So, you know, I looked over at their property driving by and I noticed that they don't have any trash cans on their property. And he said, oh yeah, they actually have a court date coming for that, because in this city you are required to have public sanitation set up. He said, yeah, that house property has not had public sanitation set up since 2021 and it is 2026. How do you go that long without having public sanitation set up at your property? And on top of that, how does the city go that long without saying anything or noticing anything any sooner? The name on the house is different than the name of the people that are living there, obviously. Person's name on the house has their name on another house and they live like 40 miles away. I call the code enforcement guy back, which is really nice, and he's been really helpful. He's helped more than the cops have. They're just useless around here. So yeah, I called him back, told him the trash situation was worse now. Right before they moved in over here, multiple states away, he had a warrant out for him. I called code enforcement back and let him know all that information. He was like, yeah, I haven't been able to get a hold of the property owner by telephone, so I'm just going to send her weekly mail now, letting her know that she has a court date. So the old woman that owns the property multiple cities away is the one getting the court date, which is just sad. You know, it should go to the people that are living inside the house. So I provided the real names to the code enforcement, and he was like, man, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about the people living there. I can only serve the property owner. I said, okay, well, maybe that'll get the point across and then they'll do something about it. They start smoking a lot more of something else. You know, they've gone away from the hard stuff. They've turned to the green plant, which, you know, I don't have a problem with people doing that. I don't care, as long as you can still function as a normal member of society. You know, they start smoking that, you know, I can smell it all the time now. You know, I've started coming home from work, I'll open the front door and it smells like the damn green plant in here, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, it's getting sucked in through the vents, the whirlybirds on the fucking roof, and getting put through the damn house. So it pissed me off today when I walked in and I smelled it, and I was just like, nah, we're not doing this. So I called the police. My neighbors are smoking so much of the green plant now that whenever I walk into my house, it smells like the green plant. You know, like, our animals don't need that. We don't need that. Go talk to them. You know, I don't even think that they have a medical card for it, considering the dude was just gone for 3 days and came back with 2 dogs instead of 1 dog. So, like, was he going out of state to buy it where it's recreational and then bring it back? They said, we're going to send 2 officers your way. You can talk to them. I'm like, well, I don't really want to talk to them. You know, I'd rather them just go talk to the neighbors, because if they open that door and they reek of weed, then they can be like, hey, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. You know, now we have, like, probable cause or whatever. I don't know. But instead, they come over and they start talking to me. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk too loud. I don't want my neighbors hearing, because I called this in anonymously. So they start talking to me. I tell them what's going on. And, you know, I'm being nice. You know, like, obviously in my voice, you can tell I'm just annoyed with the situation as a whole. And I just tell them, I'm like, look, guys, I'm just tired of this situation. You know, like, I don't know what y'all can do to help. I just want this documented. I don't know, maybe go talk to them. They were just straight up like, we can't do anything. And I said, okay, well, I mean, is there anything I can do to, like, help at all? You know, like, I'm trying to be reasonable here, guys. Like, I don't want to be unreasonable. And, you know, I'm not aggressive. I'm not a vigilante. You know, I'm concerned for our safety. This officer There are two of them this time, so it's the same officer. It's the we'll just call him Lord Farquaad. He's here again. He's got his sunglasses on, you know, the ones that just make you look like a douche. And he's just chewing on a tooth flosser, and that thing is just mangled. It is just torn the hell up, and he will not take his hands off his hips. Like he's just ready to fire at any moment, and I'm like, he's just making me nervous. You know, I'm calm, and he was just mean and rude, and it just pissed me off. So he chimes in, interrupts his partner, and he's like, "Is this about the squatter situation?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, how do you know that they're squatters? Wouldn't you think that if the property owner had a problem with it, that they would call us and have us deal with it?" Before I say anything, I'm thinking this. Well, obviously you're over here and you've told me that you're not going to do anything about this. You've never done anything about any of this, and you're going to continue to not do anything. So how do you know that they haven't called already and you just decided to do nothing? Exactly. You know, I responded to him. I was a little, you know, I was still nice, but I had like a condescending kind of tone, and I was like, well, I would hope they would. And then he just makes up some shit. He was like, these people have been living here the entire time that I've been an officer for this city. I said, they moved in, and then he cut me off. So I just waited for my turn to speak. He said, there's no crime here. You know, he said it pretty firm. There's no crime here. Really quick, even quicker than I said it. And then I told him, I was like, actually, I finally got a chance to talk. So I was like, actually, there's been a different cast of members in that property the past 3 years that I've lived here. And I've lived here longer than he's been an officer. He's been an officer longer than these most recent people have been living here. So, like, dude, just get a grip. You know, like, this dude doesn't know how to be wrong. He's obviously one to start a power trip. I mean, he would not even take his hands away from his gun. Dude, I'm at your mercy right now. I'm asking you to protect and serve. You're a public servant. Do your fucking job, dude. But it is just apparent that this dude did not want to do his job. You know, like, I am a burden to his day for not feeling safe and having weird shit go on all the time. Like, there's even more shit that I'm probably just forgetting about at the moment. And weird shit is just going to continue to happen. You know, and I hate to say this, but until these people die the same way the previous people have, you know, like, I don't wish that on anybody, but, like, shit, that's the only time that this is going to stop. They're going to be here forever. You know, I was just like, man, okay, you know. And then he starts having the power trip. You know, he said, there's no crime here. And he said, you want me to go talk to him right now? We can go talk to him right now. And I'm going to tell them that you called, and I'm going to make this situation worse for you. I'm going to cause more drama for you. Those are his exact words. I have a video of him saying that. I called them back immediately before they could even leave my property. The moment I shut my door, that's another thing. So after we got done and they basically said that they were going to go, I just stared at the short king. I said, I need your name and badge number, please. Could tell he was pissed off when he heard that. Stopped chewing on his fucking toothpick after he heard that shit. It shocked him so bad. You know, he tells me his name really quick and kind of quiet, but still has an attitude. He's just like, you know, that's my name. And then I said, okay, so what's your badge number? And then he says a 2-digit number. And I was like, really? This and that? That's your number. That's it. Nothing extra. And he said, yeah. And then I turned to the other guy, and I actually give him a smile because he was nicer. I said, what about you? What's your name and badge number? Can I get that, please? And he had no problem. He just blurted it out. Last name, number. And I was just like, thanks, man. I was like, y'all have a good evening. Be careful out there. So I go back in my house, and I'm watching him leave. Lord Farquaad looking ass motherfucker. He is like fast walk sprinting out of my driveway, and he's leaving his partner like 20 feet behind him. And I'm just like, yeah, that struck a nerve, didn't it, buddy? Like, you're gonna be rude to me, give me attitude when you're here to uphold justice and do your job. Like, you do not want to do any work. Like, honestly, what you should have done was, if you were going to park both of your officer vehicles in front of their house and then come talk to me, you should have just went and talked to them and asked them what they had going on. Like, why'd you even bother coming to talk to me? But this dude is biased, and I think he has it out for me. So, I'm not one to get paranoid, but I think he just has it out for me at this point, because at the moment he brought up, like, oh, is this about the squatters? Like, you could just tell he was pissed. He was just like, oh my fucking God, like, really, this guy? This is who I'm back at their house? I have to do my job? And he said some other hurtful things, but I took that as a threat. You know, I was also wondering if he was just going to shoot me right then and there, just for talking, just for existing. I was worried that he was going to go postal or arrest me, even though I was being calm. Like, they can make up whatever they want. They're all buddy buddy with each other. They can cover up for each other. I'm sure there's some good police officers out there, but like, come on now. So I was afraid I was going to get arrested, or they were going to come inside my house and be like, yeah, it does smell like weed. But now we're going to turn your whole property upside down. And like, even though they wouldn't find anything, it's just like, I don't want to have to go through that headache. That, or they would have been like, oh yeah, it smells like weed, but it's coming from your house, so we're taking you in. Like, everything was going through my mind, I'm just like, yep, I need to make a complaint on two officers. Well, one out of two officers that just came into my property and talked to me. I told him everything. I told him I got videos, everything of him treating me this way and threatening me, that he was going to make my situation worse for me. And I really hope I never see him again. But my thought is, they've never sent two officers at once to come talk to me. So I'm thinking that since it was this same officer that I've had issues with before, I'm thinking that they're on to him and they know he's an issue. So they're pairing him up on purpose to see if he acts accordingly, and have somebody else there as a witness to be like, oh yeah, he did act that way. Yeah, I can attest to that in the complaint. That could be what was going on. But part of me is also still nervous about going to the station and making a report and having to stay there. Because, depending on whatever this guy has said once he got back to the station, they could have told him, hey, we got a complaint about you over the phone. And he would know exactly that it came from me. So he could have told him, oh yeah, this and that about this guy, like, he could have made up so much shit about me that I don't even know, that, whenever I get there, I could be in handcuffs. I don't know. Like, do I want to go make this report? But that's just how I feel. That really pissed me off. It really ruined my mood. I had a different video in mind to make today, but I was just so fuming. I was just like, I need to get this out here, and this whole thing, might be controversial, or you might be like, oh, boo hoo, like, you're just going through what all of the rest of us go through, like, toughen up a little bit, dude. I don't know. Maybe y'all can sympathize. Just please, pray for my situation, and hopefully I don't have to deal with anybody like this ever again. And I can just do my videos in peace and go to work in peace and just have the life that I wanted to have when I moved out here. I have to protect myself and everyone around me. That is my duty as a man. But, hopefully they don't give us any more issues. And hopefully that issue with that officer gets resolved. Because next time that there's a problem out here, I am going to express over the phone, I do not want this officer out here. He is biased. He's rude. He doesn't want to do his job. Do not send him, please. I will not answer the door if he comes over here. I just couldn't believe that shit happened today. I couldn't believe I got threatened by a cop for asking him politely to do his job, basically, without even saying that, just using the service that is available. I just couldn't believe I got treated like that. I appreciate y'all listening to me bitching, but, playing this game and talking actually, I think, has kind of helped me cool down. Like, the moment I started playing this game, I found it even kind of difficult to get my words out. Like, I wanted to talk. Like, I was so mad. I wanted to talk. I wanted to come on here and talk. And I I guess maybe I was just really focused in the beginning rounds. You know, I was like, okay, I need to get set up. I can't go down here. Um, but it kind of took my mind off of it, and then the rest has just been kind of free flowing. But I guess we'll go ahead and finish off this round here, and then I'll call it a day.